I think sports games are probably the genre that are probably more for more people than people would give themselves credit for.
These are games that are kind of the building blocks to every video game console under the sun. They deserve a little more respect than we give them. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Level Up Podcast. I'm your host, Murph, as always, with my good friend, Cal.
Good morning, Murph. It's great to be here with you. I'm feeling pretty good today. What's going on over there?
Not much, but I am wanting to talk about some sports games.
Often maligned, often praised, the venerable sports game has a checkered history, a lot of highs, a lot of lows. I love them. I think you tolerate them, but at minimum, I think it's like a fun genre of games for us to talk about a little bit.
Yeah, these are games that I want to say that most collectors kind of scoff at. They'll be like, oh, walk into a game store. Oh, do you have any GameCube games? And then they say, yeah, I think we have a couple over there. And then they go and look, and then there's just a couple of sports games. And the reaction that people get from that is, oh, man, they don't have any GameCube games.
Yep.
The eyes get rolled, and then they walk out feeling disappointed. Because these games are very, very much oftentimes just looked over by the collector, by the average gamer as, oh, well, nobody wants these. And so we're going to kind of look at the topic of sports games as a whole, see if there's anything special to them, and maybe, just maybe, you actually do want to look at that shelf of sports games and maybe find something you love.
I was about to say, sports games, man, I love them. I love specific sports genres more than others, but what is up with the sports games, man? Why do they have a bad rap? I think in part they kind of have a bad rap, or people overlook them because they have always been extremely popular. People enjoy sports. Why not have sports about video games? Cool. Why not have video games about sports rather? But I think very specifically also in the last decade plus, they have become like the poster child of like often obviously poorly made games that are churned out every year, no matter what, and have become focused more and more on microtransactions, like the preeminent mode that gets the most attention in a lot of annual games. Even all the way down to like WWE 2K, even though that's kind of a sports game adjacent in the way that you play it. But entire microtransaction modes like Ultimate Team, where you get packs and open packs to hopefully get better cards to make your team better so that you can complete more missions to get more packs and maybe a specific card, those have become more and more and more and kind of are obviously the main focus of sports developers these days. While many of the other modes that people love, like franchise or even like Road to the Show or all that kind of stuff, where it's like a career mode or all that kind of stuff, have very obviously taken the backseat and are even like regressed and gotten worse over time. But I mean, they're still pretty cool. They're fun to play, even if they're not as good as they used to be. And they used to be pretty awesome, well made, solid mechanics. Sure, there still was some stuff in there where you said, yeah, this is they did pump this out every year, a little bit of slop, but everyone bought them. And I think that's a big part of why they're like so accessible these days. If you want to get, I don't know, Madden 2004 on the PS2 or the GameCube or the Xbox or whatever, it is still
sure can buy that for $10 or less.
Oh yeah, try $2 if you're trying to get it for the PS2. Someone will give you 4 copies of that. Please take it, please. Is much more the vibe.
It's so true. I think another reason why people kind of like scoff and kind of look down on sports games is that they're kind of looked on more as like these are games for casual gaming audiences. And that's one of the reasons why they just have been the annual releases every single year. This has been the case since like the 80s and 90s. Like there's just ever since Madden on the Genesis, there has been a new Madden every single year. And that's just been the case ever since then. And now that these, as you were saying, these microtransactions are slowly starting to work their way into these games more and more and more. I mean, it kind of makes sense because like what types of games have a lot of microtransactions in them? phone games, which are also made for, say it with me, casual gamers.
Casual gamers.
So trying to skew these sports games more towards that as a way to generate revenue, it makes sense. We obviously don't like it, but that's kind of why these games are just looked down upon.
Yeah, no, and I think like the way that gamers view casual gamers, or whatever you want to say about it, is definitely a huge contributing factor here. Exactly, kind of like you said, because like, yeah, if we're looking at the games that are played by people who don't engage more widely in the larger range of video games that are out there, I think like the poster child for that is like the top line shooters, Halo, Call of Duty, Battlefront, whatever. Battlefield, man, that our Star Wars episode is sticking with me. But
I love Battlefront.
But sports games, I think far and away, especially now that it almost feels like the marquee shooter has died down a little bit, to be replaced still with arena shooters like Fortnite and whatnot. Sorry, not arena shooters. That's a different, whatever.
Battle Royales.
Yes, Battle Royales. Sports games are kind of like the casual game that is left and has still been very loudly releasing every year. The Madden every year comes out to a lot of fanfare. It was a big deal when NCAA college football 2025 came out. There's not really, unfortunately, that many hockey games anymore. It feels like golf games are a lot more quiet than they used to be.
Definitely.
There was a big rash of like UFC games there for a while, which were pretty popular. It also feels like have died down. Even driving games. Do we like even NASCAR? Are NASCAR games sports games, or are they driving games, Murph?
Yeah, that's so weird because they're at the beginning of them. They do say EA Sports. It's in the game, which is the best part of any sports game. I will say that right now. If it doesn't have that, then the sports game is automatically worse by default. But yes, it is a driving game at its core, but it also has like these franchise modes that you were saying a lot of people enjoy from these sports games, from like football or golf or anything like that. Those also exist in NASCAR games. So I think they're close enough to sports games to count. They are also in the genre of game that most people look at that and are like, why would I want to buy a NASCAR game from 2004?
Sure.
Like, that is not something that I want to add to my collection actively.
NASCAR 2005 Chase for the Cup out of your mouth, Murph.
No. NASCAR Thunder 2004 is way better than NASCAR 2005 Chase for the Cup, and I will stand by that. Just kidding. That's just the one that I had. So
Chase for the Cup had like the whole career mode where you start off in like these weird little cars and you go up to the trucks and then you go up to the slower cars and you go up to the full stock cars, man. Come on.
Dang. That's kind of cool.
Oh man. But do you really play sports games at all, Murph? I know that like we have said that like I love them. You endure them. Have you played many of them?
I don't play a ton. I'm not a huge fan of more like simulation type stuff. And so as a result, like I just don't really love like the NFL, whatever the newest NFL game is. Right?
Yeah, sure.
Like they all are pretty darn similar. So I do like a football game when I'm playing with a friend. I think that's fun. I don't love doing the franchise mode, playing with a computer. I know that is something that you very much enjoy and a lot of other people enjoy out of these games, but that's not really it for me. It's more the fact that these games, I legitimately think, are usually pretty good multiplayer experiences. And so one of my favorites is actually NFL 2K for the Dreamcast, because you can call your plays on the VMU. The little memory card with the little screen on it, you can call your plays on that and your opponent can't see what play you made. Now the downside is you can't actually see the formation on that. You have to know them by name. So it does require a little bit of prep on your part to be able to know what that formation does. Otherwise, you're just randomly calling plays with no strategy whatsoever. But if you can do that with somebody who also is familiar with the formations and what they mean and what they do, then the strategy for that is like, it's really fun. It's really cool. And so I like sports games when they do things like that, where it's like a chess match. It's like play, counterplay. So football, I would say, is probably my favorites because it literally has like an offense and a defense, and that is changing every so often. Like, it feels more like a strategy game.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
It's an RTS basically.
Yeah, it's like an RTS where every time you're manually swapping your player to the right defensive end, and you're really just desperately trying to swim around, put a spin move on him and get a sack on the quarterback, and oh man, actually you failed, and there's been a 20-yard reception. Or is that just me?
That's just you. That means you're bad. You're bad at these.
I am.
But that's why I like these games, because so many people will say, oh, well, it's just a sports game. Well, no, there is fun and strategy to be had in these types of games. There's just so many of them that you take them for granted.
Oh, definitely. And that's how I feel about, so like, I play a lot of Madden, and I play a lot of MLB The Show, especially in the last couple of years. A lot more. MLB The Show has replaced a lot of my football time. But that's also just because it's easier for me to be more obsessed with baseball because there's more baseball on throughout the year than football.
That's so true. There's so many more games played.
And then naturally I get more into MLB The Show. But
literally, whenever I've seen you on Discord, these past few days, underneath it has said MLB The Show 25 on
I've been playing a lot of MLB The Show the past couple of days. It's been a little bit like slower around the house and around work, and I don't get a lot of work done during the afternoon normally. Even like I'm a very productive guy in the morning and the evening. So you pop on a Discord on the afternoon. Yeah, I'm playing MLB The Show 25. I'm taking a little break. But I honestly kind of feel almost the same way about baseball. I really enjoy playing the pitcher on the side of baseball games. You can it's a lot of fun to mix up your pitches, move them around, you can kind of set up batters by setting them all up inside with some fast pitches and then going outside slow, and they'll be ready for fast and swing way too early at the wrong zone. And you're like, awesome, I earned that strikeout type of thing. It's a lot of fun for me. And then I play as a batter and I'm like, all right, I'm going to get the walk this time. He's throwing all over the place. 4 pitches, swinging strikeout, 3 swinging strikes on 4 obvious balls, every time. My wife Jen will be watching me play, and it's just there is a ball in the opposite batter's box in the dirt, and I was my guy's standing there, swing animation complete. It's so bad. But I think it is honestly, I think sports games, honestly, like a lot of other games, are really good at fulfilling almost like a power fantasy in that, I'm not good at football. Yeah, I'm not good at baseball. I don't really have the chances to play football or baseball. I really enjoy watching them. I played some NBA 2K a little bit, but I'm not as big of a fan as basketball, so I don't play it as much either. But it's just I can play this sport that I really enjoy just in kind of a different form, but it is a form that boils it down to a lot of the parts of the sport that are interesting to me about in the first place. Like football, sure, love watching football, but a lot of what's really interesting to me about football, especially from a high level, is in a lot of ways, football is very much like a deep strategy game that happens to also be a sport. And it is a lot of offensive setup versus defensive setup. Defense being able to blow up a play with a good play call, all that kind of really high level stuff. In the same way, baseball is a lot of the same way, but on a lot more of a micro level, putting in the right pinch hitter at the right time, going to your bullpen at the right time, getting in the right matchups by putting in different relief pitchers at the right time or the wrong time. Put in a relief pitcher at the wrong time, you can lose the game. Ask me how I know. The Tigers just lost to the Guardians right now in extra innings while we're recording this. Can't beat Cleveland to save our lives. But
sorry. Ooh, that's rough.
It is so bad.
Typical Tigers fan over here.
I know. Hey, we have the best record in baseball right now, Murph. I didn't know if you knew that or not.
Angels fan over here is way sadder about that.
Hey, you swept the Dodgers.
I will take Angels just beating the Dodgers to a bloody pulp any day of the week.
I think it's the first time they swept them since the early 2000s.
Yeah, don't say that. Don't say that. It's probably true, but
so I think, listener, as you obviously can tell, Murph and I enjoy sports, which I think does make it easier to enjoy sports games, because I think in many ways the appeal of sports is getting to play a sport that you love and obviously can't access or aren't good enough to do or aren't physically able to do, but you can still access it in this way. And I find a lot of fun in that.
Yeah, because what a sport is distilled down is it is strategy combined with like actual player skill. And I think video games do a pretty good job of taking that and distilling that into a slightly different format where you still have a lot of that strategy, but that like brute force like skill is now turned into like twitch-based reaction skill, right? Which is a lot more accessible to a lot more people. And so that translation, I think, just works very, very well. It makes it so it's not literally all strategy and it's not literally all just Twitch-based reaction stuff. It's a fun blend of both. And not every game can say that it does that well. So I would say, at the very least, respect sports games on the basis of they're at least interesting.
Yes.
Like, they are way more interesting than a lot of people give them credit for.
So I think in that vein too, while we're talking about this, I think it is interesting to me that there is, even within the genre of sports games, it feels like there's two very solid kind of like sub-genres as well. There's like a lot of what has survived is the more serious or like sim adjacent, like MLB The Show, Madden, NBA 2K. All of these games are trying to like make a game that feels like a representational version of a real NFL game, a real MLB game, a real NBA game. You are playing it. The game takes itself very seriously. The presentation is very high quality. The graphics are very high. And maybe the other half of the genre still exists, but I feel like it really doesn't, but kind of had a heyday when we were like kids, which was like much more arcadey games. The NFL Blitz. I played the NFL Blitz, the original NFL Blitz arcade cabinet last weekend, and I was like, this is great. You have like fun. You have 2 buttons, you have 6 plays. Good luck, man. And you get to just throw everyone everywhere. I played the much more like NFL The Blitz games that were like a little less arcadey, but still took themselves very less seriously. But they were like rated M and very gritty. Mm-hmm. They were like, okay, so the NFL, what we're going to do is you watch the guy's bone break. And then you have
be sick. You're going to love it.
And then and then you have the option of either letting him rest normally or the doctors can inject it with drugs and he goes back out on the field. But his injury will get worse, which is like a different type of weird arcadey, taking yourself less seriously. But the EA Big Play games were there.
Yeah, like NBA Street, things like that.
Or it's just like even stuff like a lot of the Nintendo sports games that especially were around a lot for like N64, GameCube, to some extent Wii. You could say
Mario
Wii Sports,
Golf, Mario
obviously.
Strikers, Mario Sluggers.
Yep. And those are much more of an arcadey type of approach. Very fun, very rules light, a bunch of special abilities, you know, all that kind of stuff. Or like with Wii Sports, the best boxing strategy, as we all know, is to just flicker your controllers as fast as you can. That's not true. But it kind of feels like arcade games, which kind of almost feel like a party game or more like a fun casual game to play with your friends. It feels like they have kind of evaporated, and I wonder why that is.
Which is really interesting because we say, hey, we think that these sports games are successful because they are really good at marketing to casuals. And yet, the most casual version of these sports games don't exist nearly as much anymore. I do think that the more traditional sim sports games rely a little heavier on that strategy aspect of things, whereas the more arcadey stuff is more the Twitch-based reaction, just like moving your hand, moving your fingers around, and getting good at that, which makes it a little bit easier to pick up and play because, like you said, there's not as many rules that you're having to deal with. There's not as many like game mechanics that you have to get familiar with. It's a little bit more chaotic, could be a little bit more random, with a lot of things like this. And so, yeah, I think Mario Party of sports games is a pretty good way to describe them. And I think it's like Mario Tennis still exists. And what else?
Not that many.
Yeah, not that many high profile stuff at the very least. Like, I'm sure there are some games that still exist out there, but they are not topping charts. They are not being the big flagship releases for any of these video game consoles or PC or whatever. At least not anymore. Yeah, it's pretty much only the sim stuff. It reminds me a lot of like the racing genre, where kind of all that's left is the sim racing stuff, and the arcadey racers are just not really there as much anymore, even though those are the more accessible things for people to play. Yeah, why is that? Is that because they're harder to sell? Because graphically, like, it's much easier to
I think they may kind of like
showpiece?
Suffer the fate of like the people who are interested in like the real representational of like kind of what we said, living the power fantasy of I am playing football, I am playing baseball. It may not appeal to them. And then a lot of the people that a more arcadey or casual sports experience would appeal to may just not actually care that much for the a veneer of sports. They would rather play something like, I don't know, Jackbox,
just Mario Party,
Mario Party, Mario Kart. Insert any other popular 2 to 6 player game here, rather than goofing around with an EA big plays or like backyard baseball or what have you. You know, it is kind of just like a completely different appeal. It is much more casual. And if it is much more casual, then what are we doing here? Because of course, we aren't already buying sports games because they're already so casual. Well, what if we made the casual game even more casual? Oh, it has no more audience anymore. Bump, bump. Also, realistically, I think a lot of these more arcadey ones, especially like Nintendo sports games, blah, 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 blah. I feel like these were aimed a lot more at the like sub 15 years old demo, sub 14, sub 13 year old demo. And a lot of those kids these days are just playing Minecraft and Fortnite and not much of anything else. Unironically.
Yeah. I do think that the one game that was able to basically perfectly capture like a perfect balance between very arcadey and simple, but still fun. I guess it still doesn't have that much strategy, but Wii Sports, I think, was able to really crack through and show people, hey, you can have something that is based off of a sport, and it is still a legitimately fun game. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have that much depth. Like, Wii Sports is not a very deep game. There's not a ton you can do with it. It is basically a glorified tech demo, but wow, is it a fun glorified tech demo. Like, that is a great way to be able to just spend afternoons with family or just have a bunch of friends over for an evening and just blast through a bunch of Wii Sports games. It was fun back when it came out. It's still fun now. And the ability to actually like move, I think, hooked a lot of people because, like you said, the power fantasy is a very real part of it. And even though Wii Sports is not trying to be realistic, it does do the best possible job, I think, of any sports game at letting you live that fantasy.
Murph, this is a video game collecting podcast. We have talked about the fact that sports games are pretty cheap often. If you go into a video game store, I mean, like, I think when I first started going into a retro video game store, they literally had like all of their sports games off in a different section. And it was literally like buy 2, get 3 free. And I'm not joking.
Whoa.
Because like, you know, it was just big old piles of like Madden, NHL, NBA, golf games from like 2002 through 2010. Who cares? It is very much a genre that is driven by like, here is the most recent game. You probably will just buy the most recent game if you want to play this. It is objectively better in some ways, and it is objectively worse in some other ways. Or if you're like me and you have some specific modes you like, which I'll talk about a little bit later, sure, then you may want to go out of your way to get Madden 2006 or whatever, compared to many of the other games, and have fun playing that. But for a lot of people who enjoy playing these games, they want to play with the most recent updated rosters and stats and all that kind of stuff. And to do that, you got to get the newest game. These games end up having very little value because realistically, in addition to them being so common because so many people buy them, so prolific because they make so many of them, and so they have such low utility as well because the highest utility version is usually whatever is the newest one that is out, not the 15-year-old one. That kind of combines into being not that collectible, unfortunately.
It's not desirable, ergo people will not collect it.
Yep. Definitely. There are some games that are collectible, which is kind of funny, but it is just like they are the rare sports game that is either extremely rare or just happen to have high utility. Like I think a classic example is NCAA College Basketball 2K3 on the GameCube. If you wanted to get a complete in-box copy, it will run you $150 plus, which for a sports
sounds
game,
about right for a GameCube game, but not right for a sports game.
Correct. Yes, there are plenty of GameCube games that would run you that much that are cool and worth playing. That one, it just had such a small run from whatever reason from Sega. It just got they just barely made any of them. So there's just not that many of them. So if you want to have one, there's not that many of them. Another weird outlier, College Football 2014. For a long time was kind of hard to find and would run you 100 plus if you wanted to get it.
The NCAA for like the 360 PS3.
Yeah, yep. But now, up until very recently, it would be pretty hard to find and hard to get. But now you can get it for $20. What happened? What changed? EA Sports College Football 2025, the first college football video game that you could buy for over a decade, came out. The first new one. So College Football 2014 had very high utility because if you wanted to play a college football game, which especially in some of the franchise modes and in some of the career modes or what have you, is just very unique compared to Madden. Your option, the most updated option, was College Football 2014. There was no replacement for that game that existed out there. And so
the demand just kept going up.
Yep, exactly. So, but now that the new shiny, fully updated, way more schools, way more features, way prettier EA Sports College Football 2025 came out, you don't need College Football 14 anymore. It's practically, I mean, hey, $20 is still actually kind of high for a sports game, but
yeah,
still practically a dime a dozen.
Yeah, at the very least, you can get it if you want it. And I know college fans, like college sports fans, are crazy, man.
They're nuts.
They're nuts. Like, I have always thought it is so weird that there is such a ravenous fan base for college sports compared to professional sports. Because I'm always like, you all know that there's like a higher skill ceiling than what is being played in college, right? And it just literally has to do with people are attached to the colleges that they went to, and they have created an identity for themselves around these places when the times that they had. And so as a result, they're like, well, I will not vote, but I'll root for this team for all of eternity for the rest of time. And I will be a super ravenous fan, buy everything. And man, it's crazy. It's not me. Couldn't be me. I prefer NFL.
College sports are just something that's never really clicked with me, but I don't have a connection to a school, all that kind of stuff. So
I guess that's why, because like we don't really.
Yep. But one big way, actually, that the college sports do kind of games differ from some of the other ones is in my personal favorite mode for these video games, which is the whatever it's called. It's the franchise mode, man.
Cal, can you talk about what the franchise mode is?
Yes.
And why this is, in your opinion, the best part of sports games and why people should play sports games?
Oh, man. Man, it's so... Okay, so the franchise mode. So what most people think of when they think of these sports games is, like we kind of already talked about, oh, I am literally playing the football game. Cool. Yep, you're playing the football game. As fans of sports know that watching the sports games themselves is only a portion of the entertainment. Sure, we get to watch the game, we get to see the final score, we get to see those players we know and love performing well, performing poorly, But man, so much more goes into the sport than just playing the actual game. You have to build a team. You have to draft new players. You have to sign unsigned free agents to your team to try to fill in the holes that you weren't able to fill through natural talent acquisition. You have to make timely trades, balancing the future of potential new talent with established talent you already have, or maybe that has gotten a little old in the tooth that someone else might have more use for out there in the world. You have to balance your budget. You have to make sure that you have the best coach you can possibly get. If he's not doing it, you got to get rid of him and get a new one. How about a hitting coach? How about a manager? All of this stuff and more are the things that so many sports fans watch with bated breath every single day, logging into, seeing the latest ESPN.com headline about their way too long tenured coach finally getting fired. Everyone around the trade deadline in the MLB waiting to see who's going to be sellers, who's going to be buyers. All that kind of stuff is a very exciting meta level of sports that just, if you can get involved in that, makes especially engaging with professional sports so much more entertaining than just popping on the TV every given Sunday to watch your NFL team play.
Yeah, because most sports fans that I know, whenever a decision is made, whenever a draft pick is made, whenever somebody gets fired, they'll weigh in and be like, I would have done that. I wouldn't have done that.
Exactly.
That's what everybody wants to do. And so being able to put that into a game and a game mode, I think is very smart.
I was about to say, I buried the lead here. If you want all of that and more, franchise modes in video games are for you. And man, these have kind of always felt like the true form of sports games for me, but it's just because it's what I enjoy. Actually playing the games, sure, it's fun. I have fun with it. I'm so bad at it. I love doing my best, hopping onto Madden, picking those Indianapolis Colts, hopping onto MLB The Show, picking those Tigers, and doing my best to make the team the best I can through watching that waiver wire, picking up cool new free agents, cutting guys that I think are underperforming for how much I'm paying them, trading, making cool trades, watching the draft, doing really well on the drafting side of things. I never cheat or cut corners or try to exploit the weird bugs in the system. Some people are really into that, which is cool too, but I just try to do my best of being all right, I'm the general manager of this team. Let's see how well I can do. And then of course I don't play the games themselves. I simulate the games.
Wait, really? You don't even play the games?
I do sometimes.
How?
I'm cool. My excellent team I made in Madden made it all the way to the Super Bowl because of my excellent general managing skills. Time to play the Super Bowl. Oh, I lost 40-16. This stinks. That's a feature I really, really, really like in MLB The Show. Is you can set up. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but you can basically set situational importance. Where you will be okay, only put me into the game if it's a high leverage situation in the 7th inning or later, or a medium important situation in the 8th. So basically you can set a simulation setting where it's big point in the game. Would you like to enter and start playing the game at this point? And you can say yes or no, or keep simming. And that's really cool because I'll be
interesting.
Cool. Yeah. I don't want to sit here and play 160 something full length 9-inning MLB The Show games. It would take me a calendar year to get through a season if I was playing every day. Right. So I do a lot of simulation, and then it's cool. Bottom of the 9th, tied, 2 guys on base, 2 outs. All right. I'm taking 1 at bat in this game type of thing. Let's see if I can drive in the game winning run. Which is a very fun way to engage with the game too, for me. But I am a true simulation head. I am interested in the spreadsheets part of the franchise mode, the min-maxing of my team, and then and then the simulation, I succeed or fail by how well I did.
I'd say you're a complete crazy person, but this isn't too dissimilar from, we are both Magic players, and this is similar to a Magic draft where you just draft the deck and you're wow, that was the most fun part of playing. I don't actually want to play.
And then you're I bet that we get 2 wins.
Yeah, exactly. Give it to somebody else and have them play and then be like, yes, I did draft a good deck. That's basically what these franchise modes are.
Yep.
So, Cal, how far back in sports games do you have to go before they don't have these franchise modes?
Oh, man. I don't even know. I feel like when I started playing sports games, they were just there. Like, I play Madden 2004 and it has franchise modes, you know? I don't know about earlier than that. It feels like PS2, GameCube, Xbox, that era is kind of when we started to get them. And man, they were trying a little harder back then. I miss some of the that era of franchise modes. It's like, all right, off season, you're the owner now. Time to change your ticket prices. Do you want to upgrade your stadium with the extra money that you saved from your general manager not spending all of his money? And then your fans are happier and they spend more money and then you have more money to spend on free agents.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I really don't know when we started putting franchise modes into games.
But yeah, it is a similar like itch that you scratch with like Roller Coaster Tycoon or Zoo Tycoon or any of those types of games where you're just like, I control the whole thing and then we just let it run and let it go. But yeah, the reason I asked that question is because I think what a lot of people are curious about is, hey, I don't like sports all that much, but I keep seeing all these sports games since the beginning of video games. Is there a point where I should actually like start paying attention to sports games? Like, is our sports games on the Genesis, are those worthwhile? Are sports games on the PS1 worthwhile? Is it not until we get to the GameCube PS2 era that they're worthwhile? Like, in your opinion, what do you think? Because I have my answer, obviously, but I'm curious to hear what yours is.
That's a tough conversation to have, Murph. I think it is very tough in that, like, unless you really like whatever very specific mechanical small change that they made to the tackling mechanics of such and such a game, or you really, really liked a cool new way they introduced in such and such a MLB game, or really enjoyed the rosters of such and such an NBA game, it does feel like there is basically almost no reason to go back. Like, the only reason I ever have gone back, I have gone back to some of those earlier Madden games to get back some of the like messing around with your ticket prices to make more money and tick off your fans more type of micromanaging stuff that is lost in some of the newer stuff. That's like basically the only reason I've ever gone back. And I've also gone back to like recapture some of the more arcadey titles. But beyond that, I mean, if you gave me the option to play MLB The Show 25 versus MLB The Show 08, I know which one I personally am going to end up picking.
But would you go back even further? Like, it doesn't sound like you have very much experience, but like, would you go all the way back to the NES and play Tecmo Bowl? Would you play Madden, the first Madden on the Genesis?
I don't have a ton of experience. Like, NFL Blitz on the N64 is like where my sports game stuff starts, is a lot more of that. And like, I've gone back and played that because it's a fun, silly way of playing football. But I don't know if I would go all the way back to Tecmo Bowl, et cetera, et cetera. What about you, Murph?
Yeah, because what I was trying to get at was, I do think that sports games kind of settled into their prime in the sixth generation of consoles. PS2, Xbox, Dreamcast, actually, with the NFL 2K series. And if you look at Metacritic scores, they also very much agree of like, hey, these have a ton of features that we want. The graphics are great. They're fully 3D modeled. Everything feels good, because even on the PS1 and stuff, you're still getting like 2D sprites of the players sometimes, and the rendering would be pretty chunky. And so you go even further back and everything's completely sprite based. You have some stuff that's top down. You have some stuff that's attempting like a over the shoulder type of look. But all that stuff is pretty compromised because it's trying to do something that is beyond what the technology is capable of. And I don't want to say that there's not fun times to be had on some of those older games, the 2D based stuff attempting realism for sports. But sports games, I think if you want an actual good simulation type sports games, the one that is, hey, we are trying to emulate the sport to the best of our ability and turn that into a video game form and still have that be fun, I think sixth generation and forward is probably what you want. Because realistically, as you were saying, once you get to that point, going forward, the changes are a lot more minuscule and they're a lot more iterative than just like big sweeping changes of like big game engine changes. You only get that once you start jumping like video game consoles at that point.
No, definitely. Definitely. Murph, I got to say, I did some quick Googling here into the history of franchise modes. And it is kind of a little bit iffy as to when they start. Games for a very long time had like season modes, where like you play through a whole season and you keep playing through whole seasons, and there's like some stat tracking and that kind of stuff.
Was that on like PS1 era stuff?
Yes. And like 1995 lets you do like trades with other teams, so you could like kind of improve your players and that kind of stuff. Like I know Madden 01 and like Madden 02. Madden 02 had like the draft and that kind of stuff for improving your team. But apparently Football Manager, the original run of the series, not the modern run of the series, Football Manager 3 very well may have been the very first kind of modern franchise mode. And that released all the way back for in 1991 for many home computers. Such as the Commodore, et cetera, et cetera.
All right, we're turning into a Commodore 64 enthusiast gaming channel. How about that? Thoughts?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I'm in. So I think at the end of the day, though, I think sports games are probably the genre that are either very much for you or very much aren't for you, and are probably more for more people than more people would give themselves credit for.
I think that's a great way of putting it.
I think there are a lot of people who may not care that much about football at all, who would get a lot of joy out of just messing around in the Madden franchise mode and figuring out all of the min-maxing available there and all that kind of stuff if they're really into it. I know that I enjoy it a lot. Granted, I love football a lot, so it's a lot of fun for me. But at the end of the day, I think the fact that these do come out every year, very little realistically changes. It's not like there's not much you can change about the design of football, right? It's just football. Not a whole lot changes, and I think that does really dull the excitement, dulls the collectability, all that kind of stuff. Sports games are sports games, and there's not much you can do to change that unless we see a massive resurgence of the more arcadey, more funky, special powers, blah, 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 sports games out there that I think it would be a lot of fun to see a lot more of.
Yeah, I would definitely encourage people to at least try things, because even if you have played Madden once and decided, I don't like that, well, that doesn't mean that you won't like a golf game or a tennis game or a hockey game. Like, those are all very different. They'll have very similar shared DNA in the fact that they are sports. A lot of them have these franchise modes. A lot of them are just a mix of strategy, and you have to have like some quick reflexes on whenever you are timing your kick, your golf swing, whatever that is. So those will be kind of shared, but I think there's a lot more variety in these sports games than a lot of people are willing to admit. So, yeah. I mean, I have definitely been super down on sports games in the past. I will always look past them in favor of the new Nintendo game, the classic Sega game that I love, right? But I think it's good to remember, hey, these are games that are kind of the building blocks. They are fundamental to every video game console under the sun. They deserve a little more respect than we give them.
I definitely agree, Murph. And I think it is time for us to celebrate our first ever short episode of the Level Up podcast by going on and talking about our recent pickups. Murph, do you have any recent pickups?
Alas, I do not. I have been still trying to finish Final Fantasy X. I'm close, but I'm not trying to buy any more games until that point.
It's a game I really need to get back to, man. It's one of those classics. Like, I played half of it at a point in time, and then life got busy, and I put it down, and then I went back to pick it back up, and I was like, man, am I really going to jump back halfway into this massive RPG without really remembering all that much 4 months later?
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, technically, I bought Claire Obscure Expedition 33.
Woo!
I bought it digitally because it's only like $50. And so I have that. The second I'm done with Final Fantasy X, I am hopping straight into that bad boy because, ooh, that looks like a fun RPG.
I have been purposefully avoiding it. And that's why you've been seeing me play so much MLB The Show. Earlier, we actually, my recent pickup is from a series that we mentioned earlier in the podcast. I've got Mario Party 5 for the Nintendo GameCube. My personal favorite entry, but not for any reason related to the main mode. It's a real theme for this episode. There's just a real
Cal loves side modes.
There's a real dumb mode in this game where you can like build cars and you just drive around and shoot people with cars that as you play the game, you can unlock better and better parts for the cars, and you can put different wheels on them and a different body on them and a different engine in them and a different weapon on them. And I was obsessed with that mode as a kid, and I can't wait to jump back into it and remember and realize how bad that mode is.
So as a GameCube collector, Cal, now how many Mario parties do you have?
I have 3 of the 4. I have 4, 5, and 7. I am missing 6.
The one that so many consider to be the best Mario Party?
I'm missing 6.
What the heck?
I believe it's also the most expensive. So that's probably why I don't have it yet.
When everyone's like, yeah, this one's one of the best. Again,
they just like the Bookworm game.
Booksquirm? No, that's from 4.
Never mind. 4. Okay.
I love Booksquirm, though.
I have the game with Booksquirm on it, and I have 7, which is my personal favorite for the core gameplay. So I'm set. I don't need 6 for any reason whatsoever.
I'm gonna go with liking 7's a bit of a hot take.
Well, exactly.
4 was the one that I grew up with, and I think the boards on that mostly suck. But I think the minigame selection in 4 is very good. 5, I haven't really played much of. I don't love the way that the capsules work in it. 6 I like, and I haven't touched 7 at all.
Fair enough. Yeah, there are some really weird touches here and there in 7, honestly. But I have always personally really enjoyed it. But
yeah, hey, that's a good theme. It's a game that has a side mode and a yearly release. Because this was back when Mario Party was a yearly release. It ties in perfectly to the sports.
And on that note, Murph, I'm going to wish you some happy gaming.
Thanks for watching / listening. Happy gaming.